Hi, Elle Ingalls here, and welcome to this series of mental performance coaches and leadership coaches that I've put together for Stress Awareness Month, the month of April. I'm Elle Ingalls, as I said, and I've created the pressure-free method, which is an on-the-go stress management method. And tonight I'm bringing in Cole Levitt. Cole's from British Columbia, and you do a lot of different things. So Cole, I'd love for
Mhm.
you to introduce yourself a little bit here, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I was saying to Elle ahead of time that this is a massive role reversal for me. So my main position is a clinical counselor, and so being the one answering the questions is definitely not my comfort zone. But I've done some other things over the years. I started my career as an educator, taught as little as young as grade one, and the little guys there all the way up until about grade 10. So it was a wide range. Yeah, teach grade ones for a year. You'll get pretty tired in a hurry.
Right?
A lot of rest, a lot of naps afterwards. I'll get really good at tying shoes though.
Oh my
And
gosh. My mother was pregnant with me when she was teaching first grade. So that's kind of interesting to me.
is that right?
And you had to
Yeah.
hide it back then. She hid it so she could
Oh,
get through the whole
interesting.
year. Yeah.
Good on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to get good at printing, good at doing up zippers and shoelaces. But then after my career as an educator, I slipped into the mental health field with private counseling, working really specifically with kids and families, kids with big behaviors, kids with big anxieties, big anger, concerning behaviors like violence and shutdown and massive avoidance. So I got pretty good pretty quickly at trying to read the need underneath the behavior. And so I did a whole bunch of that work for quite some time, and then jumped into this mental performance work that I do now closely, mostly one-to-one with athletes in my office. But I'm starting to branch out and work more and more with teams and even some organizations now to build awareness around mental skills training and what can we implement these kids with, what kind of tools can we give them so that they not only enjoy the sport better but they perform better on the court, on the field, on ice. And so that's where, yeah, mental fitness for young athletes, my book series came from, is from all the work and the tools I was giving kids in session. I've just transitioned into more of a proactive manner. So I tell the people I'm talking to, I was sick of playing defense, and it was time to go and play some offense. And so these tools are proactive ways of giving mental skills to kids who young athletes especially that are looking to to master their mental game, and so
Beautiful.
that's what I'm doing right now.
So is the audience for your books the child, the parent, the coach, all three? I mean, I'm
So
curious.
wonderful. So it started off with this idea that this is going to be for kids. I'm trying to pick the range of kind of 10 years old to 18. And the
Hmm.
more that I continued to do it, the more feedback I got from parents and coaches who were saying, this is for me. I read it before I gave it to my son, or before my daughter, or I use it as a coaching tool. So yeah, we've adjusted from just writing for the youngsters to writing something that's much more, adoptable across the whole sports spectrum, and that's exciting.
When I was looking for whom I wish to bring on this show, there was something that pinged. And you can take it from here. It was something about all of us, I think, have had some coaches that might have had some anger issues, or you look back and you're like, now that I'm an adult, I don't think I ever would have approached a situation quite like that. You know what I mean? So I'm curious for you to share about that a little bit.
Yeah, there like I had numerous coaches growing up. I was lucky enough to have my dad as my coach for rugby. That was kind of the sport where I excelled for sure. I definitely struggled with some mental blocks back then that really motivated me to move into this field. But so my dad was a very relationship oriented coach, and he kind of saw the whole athlete, which I appreciate. But playing hockey and other sports, I had different coaches that were very top down. Their motivation came from yelling and screaming and, throwing tape balls and, getting really fired up. And so, I learned pretty quickly that a dysregulated coach is not a coach that's for me. It's not helping me perform at my top level. And so now myself as a coach, coaching my son's soccer team, I'm still working on it. I still got to dial it back occasionally because I care deeply for the children. I want them to perform well and I want them to feel success. And
Right.
so that at times, brings me up and I work on my tools to bring myself back to regulation and so that I can lead the boys in a state that's optimal for their performance. And yeah, so a wide range of coaches growing up and I dialed into the one I wanted to be pretty quickly.
Wow, that's beautiful. Um, let's dive into some tips, strategies, some of the things that you think would be helpful to a listener here for, something they could maybe take away and implement right away as they think about either, from the perspective of parent, coach, or, even in a corporate setting as someone who's leading a team.
Yeah, so each of the books that I have are laid out the same way. There's
Okay.
10 chapters. I'll kind of go through them real quick, and then you tell me what you think makes the most sense for us to delve in a bit deeper. But it goes like this:
Okay.
mental blocks, emotional regulation, visualization, growth mindset, mindfulness, resilience and grit, goal setting, positive self-talk, pre-game routines, and performance reflection. I
Okay.
identified those as my top 10 that I wanted to break down in the sports psychology world and give to kids in digestible bits so that
Mhm.
these big ideas are easy for them to grasp.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, what do you think, Al? What jumps
Um,
out at you there?
what's jumping out at me is, and I'm thinking about this whole series. We've touched on visualization a couple of times, but I would love for you to go a little deeper on visualization. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I love that saying, see it, believe it, or sorry, see it, believe it, achieve it. So I just breaking that down, see it, believe it, achieve it. We have to get those mental reps in. There's some good studies out there around
Mhm.
how mental reps are just as effective as physical reps and how
Or
our
more effective.
brain, yeah,
Yeah.
and more so sometimes. Um, and the studies go to show that, if you're getting those mental repetitions in pre-game, your body doesn't know the difference sometimes between what's happening in your mind versus in reality. And so I work a lot with injured athletes who are
Wow.
struggling, who've come out and their whole identity is connected to sport and what do I do now? I'm supposed to be performing. And so one of the things that I find is very empowering is giving them the education around visualization. And you might not be out there, taking slap shots and scoring goals, but if you're doing your visualization, your mental reps, you're actually improving yourself. So I'm giving them something to take away that they can apply right away. And I
Mhm.
think that that's empowering, even though they're sitting on the sideline with a torn ACL, they can see themselves getting back. They can see themselves being successful again. And yeah, so they can see it, believe it, and again, achieve it. Yeah.
So some people, I read a study on this once, and I talked to one of my coaches about it too, who does a lot with visualization. Some people really have a hard time creating a picture in their head. This guy actually had people start drawing
Mm,
where they could, even if it was just a sketch of, okay, this is what I'm working
mm,
toward, But I'm curious, do you run into people who it's like hard, they'll say it's like hard for me to picture. And it
mm.
could just be a mental block, like not allowing them to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't say that I run into it a whole bunch, but occasionally, if there is that piece of negativity where they're just, made the belief in their mind that they won't be back to where they need to be, sometimes going back to different environments where they've been successful is helpful. Okay, so come back to that rugby pitch where you guys won the championship and be with me here for a little bit. Or let's go to that hockey rink where you were the captain of the team and we'll talk a little bit about what was successful here, reliving past successes to bridge the gap to future successes.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
in doing that, I find that there's a sense of optimism, or we can review old game tape together
Oh,
and be like,
nice. Yeah, yeah.
look what you did here, and that was amazing, and here's the celebration. So just really giving them a sense that I've been successful once and I can be successful again.
Hmm. I love it. Now, here's another one at that one of your later chapters near the end. Was it performance reflection?
Hmm. Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about
This
that.
one, this one is work at home. This one hits close to home. So my son is he's 13 years old, very sensitive boy, wants to perform well, wants to be the best, is not always the best, but as his coach, I ask him questions after games, like where do you think you did well? What was your favorite part of the game? What's one thing you want to improve? He shuts down on me lots. Well, he just doesn't, I might be too close.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
performance reflection means he has to live in old emotions too. He has to live in difficult emotions. And I think for young athletes, sometimes that's a massive challenge. I've just lost a game for nothing. I turn the puck over, I turn the ball over, and I can't see any positive pieces. So all I'm reflecting on is the big emotional hurt that I had during that game. And so, it's almost a piece of emotional regulation in performance reflection. You've
Yeah.
got to be able to hang in the toughness of it. And the kids who can emotionally regulate seem to be the kids who are more likely to be able to reflect on their performance, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything between.
Hmm.
So it's a really interesting piece working with young athletes, the ones that want to reflect versus the ones that will avoid it, like my son. But we're getting better,
Uh-huh.
coming around.
Oh, is there a part of that that's like it's over and I want to move on? So I don't really want to reflect. I mean, I'm just thinking about myself sometimes.
I think yeah, like if I don't want to revisit discomfort.
Hmm.
So we're really good as a society now at distracting ourselves from things that were hard. I had a hard work day. Let's turn on the tube and just kind of numb out for a bit. And I think kids are the same way, right? It's like I had a tough game. I got beat by my opposite. I didn't play well. Now I want to, watch YouTube shorts or turn on some Fortnite because I don't have to feel that and I don't have to live in that. So yeah, definitely. I believe that we're good at distracting ourselves away from our thinking and our emotion. We've become very good at it, and unfortunately, that doesn't serve us long term, does it?
It certainly doesn't, especially like how you get addicted to the distractions or addicted to the substances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, massive
Yeah.
dopamine hits that are going on nonstop, right?
Yeah. I'm just reflecting on one of my clients who um at his school, it was three strikes and you're out. You do three things against the code of conduct, and you cannot perform school sports for the rest of your time there. And he happened to be the principal's son.
Is that right?
But he also played youth sports outside of school. But he came to me as a sophomore, and the dejection of being so rejected, so really humiliated to not ever be able to play school sports. Like he's a sophomore. It's the middle of the year. That's 2.5 years where he can't play any of the sports he loves.
2.5 years they banned him from sport?
Correct. Yeah.
Goodness.
Mhm. Three strikes are out. So, um, so it was fascinating to work with him, like talk about a loss, right? It was a loss of future not being able to do something. Um, and it was really remarkable how we spun it. It was about 6 weeks before he had a real breakthrough with me. Um,
Mm,
and everything had plummeted. So he was turning to substances. So like everything had plummeted, and he wanted to go to the University of Michigan. It's really, really hard to get into the University of Michigan. And
mm,
he had all these strikes against him. he made it, and he actually did, I think he did even a PhD, did a master's, and he's a scientist. And I mean, it's like amazing, right?
So
But
what was the turning point there?
um, so what I help people do, we'll talk about regulation. I help them interrupt the stress response
Mm,
so the brain can think
mm,
cognitive very well. The whole body can work better.
mm,
And so he got to the point where, well, in the breakthrough day, that meant he went the whole day the day before without triggering at all. So when he woke up in the morning, he wrote to me actually. He said, I finally did it. Yesterday was my first full day. And this morning when I woke up, I had the most focused energy I've ever felt in my life. He was diagnosed ADHD,
mm.
which is just a release of stress hormones. So he figured it out and it changed everything. And it was just patient work. And, I love working with athletes or musicians because they're disciplined, they tend to they follow, a set of instructions really well. And so but he was so determined to not, where was he going to go? Like he was here, like, where are you going to go next? Right?
Especially when you have so much of your identity is caught up in your athletic performance. And this is who I am. I'm a baseball player, I'm a football player, and now I'm not. And so where's my identity and how am I celebrated now?
Yeah, yeah. I really feel that schools often do students a disservice because that's like the one thing keeping them in. Also with music, they'll cut the music program. That was like the one thing keeping a student, really in the game. And
Mhm.
yeah, I see that happen a lot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? They're trying to pull or they're trying to shift and change behavior, but in taking the one thing that feeds back into their well-being and sense of self,
Yeah.
often creating
And
more.
creates
uh,
discipline. Like it creates such a discipline. It's
yeah.
like the bus is leaving at 6:30 a.m. The kid is there, right?
And like when the kids who have to be outside for recess and lunch to get their energy out are told they can't, they have to stay in,
Right. Yeah.
right? You have to stay in, and it's like, how are we gonna regulate this little guy now if
Yeah.
that is down?
I have to find this book because I've recommended it a few times, but there's a school, it was for a school for troubled boys, created in the 1930s here in Michigan. Now it's for both genders. But one of the former presidents wrote a really, really beautiful book about troubled, troubled students.
Mm,
And talking about how the cortex grows from back to front. You medicate a child and now their cortex isn't forming properly. Like it's like so amazing. And
mhm.
what they did at that school to just transform students just by allowing them to move and let that cortex grow. It grows through gross motor motion when you're little. Like that's how we grow. Even as adults, that's how we can create new neural pathways. It's one of a couple of my tools that are motions because you can
Yeah,
actually create new neural pathways, and that's huge for people. But yeah, I think
especially for those
sometimes,
mover and shaker guys, right? Like those are the majority of kids that I'll see coming from the school system, the guys that need to move and shake who are not allowed to move and shake. And so it's going against everything in their natural being to just sit there still and pretend as if they're focused and attending.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Um, let's see. So those are the two areas that jumped out at me, but now I want you to pick an area from your book.
Mm, challenging me. So the one, let me think, what's a good, well, I mean, I'm very hooked on the idea of the growth mindset stuff.
Nice.
By Carol Dweck and everything that she's done to support that growth mindset in the education system. There's a lot of work being done with that, and then to apply it to sport is exciting too. And if kids can really get a grasp on that idea and use that language of yet, like, I'm not a great backward skater yet. I'm not an excellent dribbler yet. I can't do a layup yet. And just digging into that idea that we have that neuroplasticity is going on. And so, we as human beings adapt and change and grow at a remarkable pace. But kids, unfortunately, are often very black and white, very fixed mindset. I've heard it so many times in teams, I'm a good shooter, you're not.
Oh,
Or
right.
I'm
Yeah.
fast and you're slow, or like just very much putting kids want to put each other in categories and they want to put themselves in categories too. I'm this, I'm not that.
Yeah.
And then so that fixed mindset will says that, I'm not going to get there. But when these kids are starting to dig into the growth mindset and they're picking up on some of Carol's strategies, it's exciting because that just builds so much more resilience and grit, and it builds so much more determination. At least that's what I've seen with the kids that I've worked with.
Hmm. Hmm. And so the word yet is fabulous. I have a few tools that I've created, but give me a couple more. I like this a lot. Growth mindset,
Yeah,
change ups.
change ups, right? So growth mindset stuff like yeah, yet or um, um, it just like celebrating mistakes, for instance, where, we're going to make a mistake and that's okay. But a mistake doesn't actually mean anything's wrong with you. It actually is an opportunity for growth. So in my soccer team, we say we're either winning or we're learning. And yeah, and the learning piece is every loss, I challenge kids to go, well, why did we lose that game? And that's a bit of performance reflection in itself. But we can, if we embrace that losing and mistakes are actually, opportunities for growth, then a lot of good comes from it. And my soccer team has embraced that this year, and we've lost our last. I don't like to say it out loud. We've lost our last 5 games. It's a crazy season. We won our first four. We've lost our last five. So we've on some massive streaks. Um, but the trust that we've built is like, trust. If you put that effort in, you're going to get the results eventually. And so we embrace the mistakes. And I say to the kids at practice, like, am I going to be upset if you make a mistake? No. Am I going to make them, get upset if you lose the ball? No. Am I going to get upset if you put in half effort? Yes. Right. So we're working at a high effort, but we're embracing mistakes and celebrating the opportunities all along the way.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. As coaches, we deal with a lot of different things. We deal with parents. There's the 24-hour rule. Don't talk to me for 24 hours about something that happens on the field, like all these kinds of things. Um, Going to parents for a moment. Parents, what tips or advice would you give parents? And I want to reflect back to the fact that, like, as a parent, sometimes parents ask me, like, I try to talk to my kid after a race or something, and they don't want to talk to me. And I'm like, maybe they just don't want to talk to you, but maybe they really do just want to be with you. Like, you don't need to talk.
Mm,
So here's a case in point. I had an athlete who she's a high jumper. I'm standing at the fence and she all of a sudden just kind of looks over. She walks over. She, like, my hands were resting on the fence. She put her hands on top of my hands. Didn't say a word. So I didn't say a word. Just looked at her. My heart was just open, full, like, you're going to be fine. In every way, my energy was, you're going to be fine.
mm,
She left, jumped beautifully. It was like she just needed someone to be there for her, right?
mm,
And so
mhm.
sometimes I think we try to talk too much. And do they just need to feel our energy of complete unconditional support, like no matter what happens, kind of thing?
Interesting, yeah, because I mean, I was gonna answer right away is for parents is know your own stressors. Know what you're bringing to the field, know what you're bringing to the court, to the rink. And, you'll see those parents on the sideline who are screaming and yelling and coaching because I was just recently going to work with an organization, and the fella said, like, Cole, well, I have to coach and teach parents we're about development and growth and not about score lines. And like, how do we do that? And so part of the research was looking into why do parents value um, results and over long-term development and growth. And part of it that came out was we've got this crazy thing called social media now where, it's all about comparison, and, you can't put up something celebrating Johnny or Susie unless it's a first place ribbon. And, how do we celebrate the kid who, got ninth place? And so everybody is very much wanting success and positive emotions for their kid, and it's a very kind of narrow vision that we have sometimes,
There
um,
is.
for social media or for external validation. Our own sense of pride or ego gets in the way. So knowing what you're bringing to the court all the time. So if that person had come over and just touched your hand and you started talking about da 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 da, da, and you would have most likely elevated their heart rate,
Yeah.
got cortisol going, and then that's not helpful. So it sounded as if you're this calming presence that a parent can be by just, yeah, being and not coaching and not reflecting, and just that unconditional positive regard that comes from, as you were saying, just being with the child.
Yeah. I coach a girl who goes to an extremely high pressure school out east. And when we first got together, she goes, it's just sports for so many of us, it's not even fun anymore. It's not fun, you know? It's like, no, I have to work and work and work so I can play this sport in college. Or, you know what I mean? And so we've really like that was part of our theme is to open up. And we talked about that last night with another coach. It's like,
Mm.
what do you love about this? What do you love about this game? Like, what do you love about it? And then love as a theme, like between teammates, with everybody on the field. I even coach my athletes to want success for the opposite team. That makes for a great competition.
Yeah, I guess, hey.
It
I think,
changes everything. It opens you to not be anxious. It's really funny.
huh. Oh, I
Mhm.
mean, at what age do we switch from being, kids who are playing for fun and being in that very much that flow state and mindful and just engaged in the moment to, am I going to get a scholarship? Am I going to get on the right team? Am I going to perform well enough for the guys on the sidelines? There's a time
Yeah.
that changes,
Yeah, that's true.
and a lot
Mhm.
of, I think you'll see a lot of drop off at that time for kids too, when it becomes much more about the future than the moment that they're playing in.
Mhm.
And,
You'll even see that in college. They'll play first 2 years and then you'll see a drop off junior, senior year. They're just or they're so into what their career is going to be that they're leaving.
mm,
But I've seen that happen, especially in the smaller colleges. It's like, it just gets to a point where it's just either too much.
I think that's chapter 5. That's mindfulness, right? So,
Oh,
being in the moment and accessing your flow state and just being about, we're on the soccer field, it's 2-2, nothing else matters right now, not a scholarship, not the coach on the sideline, not the mom yelling, not, just being able to dial into that moment is often lost, especially with kids nowadays, because we're so future oriented with technology and all of those things. I think that just hijacks that mindful piece sometimes, unfortunately. So allowing that flow state to happen while they're in the game, to me, that was the most joy I ever had, was when all I could think about was the next rugby play, and who was I going to hit next. And that was what it was all about.
oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Well, I have some links that I'll be dropping for those people who have signed in. You'll be getting all of Cole's links. But LinkedIn is also a way they can connect to you too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Please feel free to reach out through LinkedIn. Our group is Mental Fitness for Young Athletes. Our Facebook group is also Mental Fitness for Young Athletes. We're constantly putting out more research and ideas for parents and coaches and kids, so that we can, yeah, build the mental skills for kids to be happy and successful in sport, but mostly happy.
I love it. Thank you so much, Cole. This has been fantastic. I'm going to close out our Facebook room here. And well, thanks again, Cole.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elle.